Welcome to MILF.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we are two moms into literary freedom. Welcome back to another episode of Moms into Literary Freedom. I am your host, Courtney Vandemonte, with my wonderful co-host, Jennifer Mendoza. And we are super excited to have the opportunity to interview an awesome author, Elisa Leahy. You might recognize that name because she wrote a book that we covered called Tethered to Other Stars. There it is. If you're watching the video, just a reminder, we are on YouTube and Substack if you want to watch the video version of this. So welcome, Elisa. I'm saying that right?
Elisa. Yeah, Elisa, if you want to pronounce it the Spanish way. But yeah, Elisa's good. Thank you. It's so great to be here. I'm so excited to talk with you MILFs. Is that a bad thing to say out loud?
Yes, that's us. Say it loud and proud, right, Jennifer?
That's right. Welcome to the MILF Club.
Yep. We actually have this like side thing called the MILFia, which we're struggling to get off the ground. But like, if we ever get to the point where people want to be in the MILFia,
well, like your fan club?
Yeah, the plan is to like have exclusive content and, like, I don't know, merchandise, but whatever, a girl can dream, a MILF can dream, right?
Embrace it.
Yeah. Well, my first question is, where are you from? Or like, what's your, I don't know, how do I ask that question?
I gotcha. So, no, that's a great question. So I am Peruvian American, and I'm cautious to specifically say that. I don't call myself Latina. I'm not. I'm white, but I am Peruvian American. So I'm a citizen of both Peru and the United States. I was born and raised there. My parents are American. They do still live there. Peru is a huge part of my identity and my background. But also, like I said, I am white. So I try to be very clear when I identify myself, not to say that I am part of the Latina community, because I recognize there are some differences there, and I have some privileges as a white person that not everyone in that community has. So, good question to start with. I like to clear that up at the beginning anyway.
That makes sense.
Very cool. So you grew up in Peru?
Yes. Peru is home. I wish I were there now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Anywhere but here.
Yeah. Right now especially, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think, as a fellow white girl, that privilege piece is very important to talk about because of the racial profiling that is going on right now to a degree that like my ignorant white ass never thought would happen in this country, Maybe I'm just like overly optimistic or naive or something, but like, it all just seems like it's happening so fast. But then when you take a step back, you're like, well, hold on. Like this shit has been happening for decades, and it's just sort of more in your face today,
And I think it feels like it's happening fast because there's been groundwork that's been laid for this moment specifically. And obviously that groundwork goes back deep into our history, but the specific policies we're seeing now didn't come out of nowhere. They didn't develop overnight. They very much have been laid intentionally in place, and we are just now seeing them more visibly than we have in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, we covered the book Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, and have you read that one?
Oh, phenomenal book.
Yeah, and then did you watch the TV series?
No, I haven't.
I didn't know. I read the book and I had no idea that Netflix had like a whole thing. They did a really good job. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. Just go watch it for yourself. But like I cried the whole time I watched it. And it was just, but it, kind of reminded me of when you were saying like the groundworks of our country, like the systemic racism and the systemic, cast is a really good word for it. So if you want to learn more about that, go back and listen to our episode Cast, or just read the book or check out that Netflix documentary, because knowledge is power, especially in today's world. But also,
go
ahead. No.
Just going to recommend one other book. So Stamped the one with Jason Reynolds. I think a lot of folks know about that, but Dr. Ibram Kendi also wrote Stamped from the Beginning, which is like an entire course. If you wanted to really understand in depth, like where we came from and where these things we're seeing now, what they are rooted in, Stamped from the Beginning changed my life. That truly gave me an
Okay.
understanding of American history I would never have had outside of a college course. It does feel like that.
That's
It is very
amazing.
academic and
Yeah.
it's very thick, but it is worth a
We
read.
read Stamped for Kids, right, Jennifer?
Yes.
Yeah,
Stamped for
which is fantastic.
we're
That's the
kids.
shorter version of what I'm talking
Right.
about. But if you want like all of the heavy, like
Uh-huh.
original primary sources cited
Okay.
version, yeah, Stamped from the Beginning.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I've heard
definitely have to
about
pick that
that.
one up.
Yeah, we'll have to add that to our list. I
Intense.
think the I read an Indigenous Peoples History of America by Roxanne or Roseanne, I can't remember. But and then there's the other book, which is the what's it called? It's just the American history version. Do you know what book that is? What's that called? I can't remember.
Mhm.
People's History
Half
of
of
the
this,
United States?
say it again.
People's History of the United States, that
Yes.
one?
Yes. So my
Yeah.
husband was reading that too, and he was listening to me kind of talk about this with Jennifer, and he said you should really read that one because there's chapters in it. Because we just talked about the Guatemalan coup in the
Hmm.
50s, or sorry, the coup, the American coup in Guatemala in the 50s, and he said there's like a whole chapter on that in that book, and I didn't know. So that's another book I want to read too. Hmm.
That's interesting. I'm Guatemalan, so I really loved that the character was Guatemalan. I'm born here, but my parents are both from Guatemala. And so I always get excited whenever I see any kind of representation. You don't hear a lot about Guatemalan people. I feel like I do more now, but not when I growing up. Like it's, I grew up in Miami, so a lot of Cuban Americans, Dominicans, Colombian, and it was very rare to run into someone else that was Guatemalan that wasn't related to me, that wasn't family. So anytime I hear a story about it, and I was so excited when I was reading it, I was like, oh, she's Guatemalan. Well, she's
Yeah,
Guatemalan and Salvadorian, right?
Salvadoran, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much. I mean, I feel like every country in Central and South America has these deep-rooted, painful histories that are connected to the United States. And I wanted her to have, obviously her family came from Central America. And so when I was writing Wendy's story, I have a lot of friends from El Salvador and Guatemala and Honduras and a lot of places in Central America. And I think that I wanted to kind of hint at this huge, just an enormous amount of pain that is passed on, even without discussing it from generation to generation. And so with Wendy and her mom, I wanted to reflect that without getting too, I mean, there's really not very much in there about Guatemala and what happened in
Right.
Guatemala. But I wanted it to be reflected through the eyes of a child who may not ever, unless she grows up and does her own research, may not ever hear about this from her mom because her mom is not ready to talk about this and may never be. But it is very much a part of her past and her history. And then with El Salvador, that one was much more specific because there was a story there that I wanted to touch on. So I gave more details about her dad's past. But that was important to me to include that, to include the fact that her mom was leaving a very difficult place as a kid. And well, not as a kid, she was older when she left, but that she had grown up through some very difficult times in Guatemala. So yeah, I'm glad that you were able to see that and connect to that in some way. I don't know what
Yeah.
it was like for you, or if you heard much about that time period from
No,
your family.
that's what I'm saying. I really don't know much about the history. Like I know of like situations now where I was telling Courtney the other day, um, los guerrillas, that are there. I remember my mom visiting one time and they were stopped by them and like taken down because they had American passports at the time. And if the el ejército, the army didn't show up, my parents might have been, executed. And they were just visiting, so that was just like a small snippet of it. And just hearing that it was dangerous sometimes just to walk around and, lots of theft and stuff like that. But I know very little about the US involvement. So I'm learning it now through Courtney, who's
Well, I
teaching me.
just
I'm like, okay.
The book that we covered, our last episode is called Bitter Fruit.
Mm.
And it's an older book. I think like the CIA documents were released, and then they used the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, to sort of like kind of shed light on this back in the 90s, or it was probably early 90s, I think. And the book didn't really take off. Like it wasn't like a bestseller or anything, but like unfortunately, but
Mhm.
what the is I Jennifer and I talk about this a lot. Like social media kind of like does that sort of like I think I learned about all of the American coups in the South American countries on social media, and that got me thinking. That's what kind of like enlightened me about the Guatemalan coup. So I went and looked for a book to read about it, and I ended up finding this Bitter Fruit book, which is so informative. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's there's so much out there that just I mean, like you said, it maybe didn't take off because people don't like to talk about this. I mean, the
Hmm.
people who have been through it don't like to talk about it, and the people who haven't been through it will never know that it's there if we don't talk about it. So,
That's a good
I mean,
point.
that's it's a difficult and part of what I wanted to do with this story was to show not just what Wendy and her family were going through in Columbus, Ohio in 2018, which is when this book was when I started writing it and also when it is set. But also to show that there are things that happen to us, that happen in our society, that shape us and harm us in ways that we will carry on for many, many years to come. And
Hmm.
if we do not talk about those things and we do not share those stories, then those then we have a much less better chance of standing up to them when they come back around.
That's
And
so
looking
true.
at what's happening here today, that just this is why I said earlier I wish that this book was more well known because
Hmm.
Right.
this is something that happened in 2018 that I really thought, okay, I don't want people to forget about this because
Hmm.
someday this might be relevant again. I did not
Mm.
think it would be this soon or
Right.
Yeah.
this harsh.
Because you wrote it, let's take this as an opportunity to talk about the time
Yeah.
when you wrote it, because you wrote it during the first Trump administration. So in your head, or at least I'll say what was going through my head at the time, let's just get through this 4 years and then we'll be okay. And that's when Isabel Wilkerson wrote Cast,
Hmm.
was the first Trump administration. And oh, it broke my heart to read the epilogue where she was like saying like, I hope, that, she thought it was going to be over. And I'm like, oh no, like here, you have no idea how much worse it's going to get?
Yeah, and I think part of that is this idea that somehow one person is the problem, and how people would say, well, as soon as he's gone, as soon as he's no longer in office, we'll be okay.
It's not one
But
person.
I mean, he came from somewhere,
Right.
right? He's in office because of the people, not just the people who voted for him, but the people who have policed the press, the people who have oppressed those who were willing to stand up to him, the people, like so many people along the way
Hmm.
who have caved, and that's all coming from somewhere. That's coming from a people who are looking for something and finding it in him. And if we
Hmm.
can't like go to the root of that and figure out what's going on there,
Hmm.
then there will just be another person. He just happened to be the one to embody it all. And what
Yep.
that is like the good news is that we are seeing right now this very extreme presentation of
Pushback.
yeah, well, this embodiment of many values that we have seen in kind of lesser ways, but that have been
Hmm.
held back, and the brakes are
Right.
gone. There are no filters, there are no brakes. We're seeing exactly what this looks like, and
Hmm.
it's getting to the point where like people like you cannot ignore it any longer. You
Right. It's
have to
like,
say, okay, this is who I am, or
hmm
this has gone too far. And there are people who are doing that, who are saying this has gone too
hmm
far. This is not actually what we wanted. So, if you're looking for a silver lining, once it's broken, we can rebuild it.
Right.
Right. My husband's always said that. He's like, we got to hit rock bottom. And he never votes for the Democrat either. He always votes for like the Democratic Socialist, and I'm like, why are you throwing your vote away? He's like, well, first of all, it's Florida. It doesn't matter.
Mondani,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I didn't really understand what he meant until now. And it's been like a journey of me becoming whatever. I hate to use the word woke, but I mean I don't really hate to use it. Like it's sort of it's a good word. It clarifies what I'm talking about. Like I think it's been sort of weaponized, or at least attempted to be weaponized by the other side, but like my woke journey, if you will, like I'm realizing like it's not just good versus evil or Democrat versus Republican. Like our system has been, it's not broken. It was built to be broken, right? It was built like this. It's not broken because it was never right in the first place. So, I don't know, just reading books like this too, though. That's one thing I was talking to Jennifer about is like these books didn't exist um in the 90s or even like, and if they did, I'm sure there's an author that's like, hey, I matter, I existed. But like if they
Right.
did, like they're not as commonplace as now. Like I grew up in this town, and if I went to the library, I would not find this book or a book like this in the 90s. You
Yeah.
know, now they're everywhere. There's so many opportunities and options for kids to build that empathy and to have windows, right? Jennifer
Mhm.
spoke about how this book is a mirror for her and how it would be for like her daughter if her daughter had read it or it reads it. But for me, it's a window. And I think that, windows and mirrors are so important for this upcoming generation. So authors like you are just like amazing. And I feel like, you're in the forest and you can only see the trees, right? It's hard to like take a step back and see the forest, like the impact that you guys are making. But like also, you're a damn good author because I hate
Yes.
YA, but this is good.
Oh,
Like this
Yeah.
is really good.
Yeah,
Jennifer knows a lot
definitely it
about
was
YA too.
why do you
I
hate it?
really enjoyed reading the book. Like I do love YA though.
Yeah,
And this
Jennifer
is
loves
more like
YA.
middle grade, right?
What's that?
This is more like a middle grade book.
Yeah, it's upper middle grade.
Upper,
So I've
yeah.
seen it shelved with YA in some places. It's right on the cusp there. So
But yeah, I thought it was really well written. Like I wasn't bored ever reading it. I could see my kids being the kind that, they don't like to read a lot of the time, and they would want to read this book, if I can convince them to start. That's the problem, is
You
getting them
just
to
have to
start.
bribe them. Do you pay your kids to read? I pay my kids to read.
I listen to audiobooks and then they'll start listening and be like, "What's that about?" And I'm
Okay.
like, "Sit down."
Yeah.
I do almost exclusively audiobooks, so I get that.
Oh, you
Yes, I
do.
love audiobooks.
That's funny.
And the
Yeah.
audiobook for this book is really good.
Yeah,
Oh, it
It
yeah,
was
it
is.
is.
excellent.
Mhm.
Yes.
I love it.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it was really good. So yeah, it is a story. It did like I know a lot of people who migrated here, who were here illegally, who've gone through the process. W- I know lots of aspects of it. So it was very an honest book. Very I could relate to it. I could understand. I didn't feel like I was being lied to or like, this doesn't really happen. It
Hmm.
was very legit.
Well, thank you. That's
Yeah.
it comes from. I mean, everything in there. This is one of those books where fiction is reality in so many ways, right? I mean, I've talked about this with many people about how fiction is the best way to tell the truth sometimes because it may not be nonfiction, but it is the way that you tell that truth so that people can hear it. And for me, I come from documentary filmmaking actually, so I have a lot of documentary film work that I have done. And when I started getting involved with immigration activism here in Columbus, I was, meeting people with these just devastating stories and finding out things about people's lives and working, to protect them and their families, doing all of this. And of course, as a documentary filmmaker, I kept thinking, how can I tell their stories? But you can't tell these stories. It's not safe. I can't ask my
Right.
friends to go on camera and share their personal stories because there are still gangs in El Salvador looking for them, or there
Mm.
are still immigration agents who will come for them here in Columbus, Ohio. So
Right.
I was not able to do a nonfiction storytelling
Hmm.
of these friends that I had made and their stories, but I knew that these stories were so important that they needed to be told. So I started writing fiction as a way to tell that truth in a safe form. And the stories that I mention in here, so many moments in this book, so many things that happen with Wendy and her family come from very real things that people I know have experienced. So if it
Yeah.
Hmm.
feels authentic, that's why it is
Hmm.
authentic. It's just had, the serial numbers filed off a bit for
Yes.
for the
Right.
purposes of fiction writing and for the purposes of protecting my friends.
I
That's
love that.
awesome. I mean, it really is the type of story I feel like a child could read and relate and maybe, you know, like you said, children that have not lived that experience to maybe gain some understanding and some compassion and empathy.
Hmm.
Um, we live in a very red state. I don't know how red Ohio is.
It's
Um,
pretty rad.
is
Yeah,
it?
My favorite.
I'm in
Yeah.
Columbus, so I'm in a blue bubble, but it is a red
Yep.
state.
Yeah, our bubble is red here. So,
Yeah.
our kids go to school and a lot of their friends have MAGA parents and are very,
Hmm.
right wing. And so it's a bit of a struggle. And I feel like books like this being accessible to children might
Hmm.
change their way of thinking and maybe expand, which
Yeah.
clearly is why books are being targeted because they don't
Hmm.
want that. But um, I do appreciate this story a lot. And I really
Yeah.
loved this book.
And
Is
there's
it?
bullying in it too. Like Wendy, does Wendy go through the bullying herself, or are there?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's lots of different like student characters, and like one of them, I think, was it Fiona that was like the bitchy one, or which one was the bitchy one?
There's one that's worse, but yes.
I think I get the names
Avery
confused.
and
Avery?
Fiona are,
Avery, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Avery's the one that's, and it's tough. I mean, when you're writing for kids too, and this is actually my editor did a great job of this with me because now and then she would just say, she would check in with me and say, now, like the kids are not the enemies, right? Like
Hmm.
there is a system and a way of thinking, and that is what we are up against. And
Hmm.
so remembering that, like, yes, there are some some pretty awful kids in this book. There are some kids that I personally hate, and people have told me they hate, of my characters, and there's a reason for that. But again, it's not like it should not be. Oh, that child is a horrible person. Like what
Right,
I
because
want.
they're just parroting what their parents are saying.
Yeah, well, what I want people to see reading this book is that that comes from somewhere. That it's not
Right.
just like a kid being evil. It's a kid who either has not thought this through, or who, like, maybe like Fiona, who does have a bit of a turn, or it's a kid like Brent, who it comes very clearly from what he has been taught and what he has been pushed into.
Right.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
And as a parent, I talk about that a lot with my kids, and
Did I
because
say
sometimes they'll
Brent?
come home
I'm
and be like,
Brett.
"Sorry, say that."
I misnamed my character, Brett.
Brett. Okay.
Which I should remember because he's named after Brett Kavanaugh. So,
Oh my
Oh,
God, I
that
love
makes
that.
total sense. Okay.
That guy sucks. He's the worst.
there are a whole bunch of Easter eggs. Once you know that,
Oh my
you
God.
might see more.
Oh my God, I love Easter eggs. I'm gonna go back and look now.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause because
And that
that
was another,
guy.
that was like the time that I was writing this. I was angry
Mm,
about things. So,
yeah, I remember that. I remember that well.
yeah.
But yeah, my kids will come home and they'll be like, "Oh, so and so likes Trump." I'm like, "Your 10-year-old friend doesn't like Trump. Your 10-year-old friend's parents like Trump, and you can still because they'll be like, "Well, I'm not going to be friends with them." I'm like, "You can be friends with that person. Just if something comes up like, anti-LGBTQ or anti-immigration, just like share your thoughts with them and see what they say." Because you might help change their mind. And my kids read, not my kids, my older daughter reads these kinds of books, but my other two, they don't read these kinds of books yet. But my older daughter has, she actually had the anti-LGBTQ conversation with a girl like Fiona. Because Fiona was the daughter of the pastor, right?
No, no,
No,
no.
that's Etta.
Etta, sorry.
That is
Fiona
the
was the one that
old,
was like middle ground,
Okay,
like
so
she played both sides a little, right?
yeah.
so my daughter had a friend like that, and she sort of like talked, because she would go back and forth between like being very, Christian and like, I love God and God says that it's bad to be gay. And my daughter kind of like had this conversation with her about it. And you know, she didn't completely change her mind, but they kind of like met in this middle ground and sort of like without saying it, admitted that they're just, they don't really know what's going on, but they're not gonna like make these blanket statements, like maybe like, oh, I didn't think about it that way, and like who knows what that might evolve into as she gets older. But it's important to have friends that maybe have different ideas that you can
Well,
hear about.
yeah, that's hugely important. I mean, it's that whole idea of tribalism versus community, right? I mean, we are going to be told that we belong with a certain group and that there are other groups that are not like us. And once you fall into that way of thinking, like that's those divisions are really hard to get past. But if you keep those boundaries fluid and you, instead of saying like this is us and that's them, and because that's all built on fear, right? Instead of that, if it's we are a community, and if we're going to be against something, let's be against poverty and starvation and abuse. And like there's so many things that we could all be against together, regardless of those differences we might have, right? We can all fight this fight together. We don't have to agree on everything, but the way that we are divided into these tribalistic belief systems, that's what leads us to where we are now, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it does. And I did appreciate that about Etta and her family, because, in today's world, I feel like, and I have it, where I have kind of built this resentment towards religion and religious people. And I say that from personal experience, just people in my own family who are very religious. Like I have pastors in my family, and I'm just like, it's a big turnoff for me. But not
Because of the
everyone,
hypocrisy.
right? But not everyone in religion is bad, and I'm starting
Right.
to see, because I'm not gonna lie, I have really started to hate them to a certain extent. People who, when they say Christian, I'm like, ugh, and I don't want to do that, but I do. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but I'm starting to see more people from Christian backgrounds, religious backgrounds, start to speak up against what ICE is doing, and kind of like, okay,
Yes.
this is kind of when I hear good Christians, I know they exist still, and I'm very happy to see that coming up again. And so Etta and her family kind of, you know, they represented that, and I thought that was good
Yeah.
too. So that, you brought up a good point that not everyone who's religious is bad.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I was
and
just going to say that's a key plot element in your book, right? Like there's across the street from Wendy's house is this church, right, where Edda's dad is the pastor, and then there's a woman, for those listening, there's a woman seeking sanctuary in that church.
yes, and actually it's her mom that's the pastor.
Yes.
But yeah, the church that's across from their house takes in this woman who's living there in sanctuary, and she moves in the same day that Wendy's family moves into her new house, which is, of course, that's kind of the kickoff for the whole book. That's the inciting incident that kind of launches Wendy into this whole thing. And it's interesting because, Wendy's family is actually fairly conservative. Her parents are would not consider themselves liberal at all. They're a conservative, Latina family, like many of the families I know and love. Whereas Etta and her pastor mom and their whole community, they're very liberal. I mean, Etta's just very proudly lesbian and is like this little social justice warrior kid. And she's the pastor's daughter, right? So this whole thing came out of the church that I was working with when I wrote the book, that I'm actually still a part of. I never thought that I would be a part of a church because, like you mentioned, Jennifer, I saw faith communities just choosing power and violence over these things I had heard about who Jesus was and the way that we were meant to live. And I had just kind of shrugged and said, the church isn't for me. And then
Right.
I found communities doing work like this. So this church that I based the church in the book on is actually the church that welcomed my friend Edith into sanctuary. She lived in the church nursery for 3 years. And I wrote this book while I was involved with her team fighting for her and her family. So there's even, there's scenes in this book that come directly out of my experience working with her and her team. The moment when she cuts off her ankle monitor is based on something that happened at our church. And the language that's used there, the way that they talk about what they are doing, all of that comes from the organizers who were working with her team. There's discussion there about things like be cautious how you interact with ICE officers because that could have implications on the people that you are fighting for. Like all of that is important information that I learned through my work with immigration activism at the church with Edith and her team. So there's a lot more, the protests that were done. I mentioned I'm a documentary filmmaker. I have a documentary called A Shelter for Edith. And I spent a lot of time, present and doing activist work with her, but also filming this and documenting her journey. So this book is one of the ways that I am telling my friend Edith's story, which comes from this church community that's still today doing a lot of incredible stuff,
Yep.
doing a lot of important work.
Gotta look for the
That's amazing.
helpers.
Yeah.
Can we watch your documentary anywhere?
That is a great question. So I think it was, well, our last documentary is available on Canopy, and this one was going to be on Canopy. I honestly don't remember anymore. I started working on my books and kind of my brain just like
Too
ditched
many
my whole
things.
documentary. I was like, documentaries were fun. I'm done with that. And I can't remember right now if it's available online, but I can make it available. I can send you guys a link for sure.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I'm not sure if it's available publicly. If it is, it's on Canopy. I don't know if you're familiar with Canopy with a K. You can watch
Okay.
documentaries. It's on there for free with a library card, so most
Oh,
people can
cool.
access that for free. But I don't think that my Shelter for Edith, I don't think is on there.
Okay. Well, hey,
Okay.
I'll check out the other one. Um, but yeah, I would love to even like show that to my middle schooler. Like I feel like that would be a good, in addition to reading this book, right? That would be a really good way
Yeah,
to sort of
it's the documentary was in 2020, so it's during when we're all in lockdown, like everybody's inside and sheltering at home. That's why Shelter for Edith is the title. But kind of talking to her about what her experience has been like and comparing that to like that experience of,
okay.
and it's in
Hmm.
the midst of the George Floyd protests,
Mm.
which we had a lot of that here in Columbus. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
different things going on in that documentary.
Hmm.
It was a
Well,
time.
yeah, I know. Gosh, I was thinking about that, like how like 2020 was unprecedented, right? And I'm like, well, shit, what the hell is happening right now?
What is
Like
this
it's
then?
just been
Yeah,
Every year
right.
since.
unprecedented
I would like some
millennium.
precedented years, please. Can we get the
I know,
precedented?
like
Yes,
you got to
please.
remind yourselves that, it's I don't know, every year so far has been unprecedented, but yeah, to sum up Tethered to Other Stars, you've got a woman hiding in a church sanctuary from ICE, a family living in constant fear of ICE raids, loved ones being detained, legal uncertainty around their immigration status, and even bullying and community prejudice at a middle school setting with a science fair. There's some black stuff about black holes and astronomy because she's building a telescope, I think. So this book is just a must read, even though it's technically upper grade YA. I don't know how you guys say that.
Upper
Um,
middle grade.
upper middle grade. Thank you, YA. It's definitely a good read for adults too.
Yeah.
So check that out. Tethered to Other Stars by Elisa Stone Leahy. Buy it from Bookshop. Bookshop.org gives you all the money, right?
Well, it doesn't go directly to me. It goes to HarperCollins, but
Right.
it'll help me out in the long run.
Better
Yeah.
than Amazon. Don't buy it from
Don't
Amazon.
buy from Amazon. Buy from your
No.
local bookstore if you can, actually.
Right.
Please
We
buy.
don't have one of those here though. So
How do you not have a local bookstore? Where do you live?
we live in
Palm
Palm
Coast.
Coast. Yeah.
A little
Maybe,
No
tiny.
bookstore
maybe that should be
here.
your next Milfia project.
I would love
Milfia
that. All
Books.
we have to do is win the lottery.
I want to do a mobile bookstore. I would love that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
a great idea. We have a
Yeah.
couple mobile bookstores here in Columbus, and they're so fantastic. I love them.
I
Yeah.
think it's such a fun idea. You have another book that's out too. What is that one
I
about?
Yeah,
do,
we need
yes.
to hear about that
So
one.
Mallory and Phil
Mallory?
Keller, yes, it's a queer identity story. And this is actually, Mallory is one of the minor characters in Tethered to Other Stars. You may remember her. So
Oh, wow.
she's one of Wendy's new friends at school. You don't know a whole lot about her. You know, she's Korean American and she loves to draw. And that's pretty much it. So in this book, you find out that she is a people pleaser. She will be anything you want her to be. So she's
Oh.
a bit of a social chameleon, which means that
Mm.
it's hard for her to really be her true self. And the one
Wow.
place that she can really be who she is in her top secret webcomic that she publishes online.
Oh my God, I
It's
love it.
not allowed to do this and would be grounded forever if anyone ever found out about it. And she bases the characters on her real life friends, like Wendy and Etta.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
If they ever found out, she would be in huge trouble. So of course it goes semi-viral, kind of a Harriet the Spy situation.
I
But
love
this one
it.
has, she's got a fun new crush. There's a drag queen story time that she's trying to save.
Yes.
There's a lot of fun stuff in this book. Tethered was, the book of my heart, hard stuff in this book.
Right.
every time I went to talk about it, I just was like, this is heavy. So when I
Mm,
wrote this one, I wanted to write a really fun book that was super fun to talk about. And
mm.
every chapter opens with a page from her webcomic, which is also really fun. So yeah, and that one just won the Lambda Literary Award for middle grade
Ooh,
That's awesome. I'm gonna go buy it as soon as we're
congrats.
done with
I
this
know, me
call.
too.
I'm going to
Yay.
bookshop.org, and I'm buying it, and I'm gonna read it and then make my middle schooler read it. It's not
Yeah.
gonna be hard to make her read it either. Like she loves reading the books that we talk about on our show.
I
Oh,
didn't realize they were connected. I'm so excited to find that out. I didn't make the
Yeah.
you can
connection
read
that it
them
was
separate.
Mal.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
Yeah.
can read them totally separately. They're standalone, but there's
Hmm.
definitely crossover characters.
I
I
love
love
it when
it.
authors do that, when they like take a
Yeah.
character from one book and then like tell their story in a different book. I think that's awesome.
Well, I wasn't ready to say goodbye to these kids yet.
Yeah, that's
So yeah,
great.
had to keep going.
That's awesome. Well,
That's awesome.
hey,
Yeah.
I mean, we try to cover banned books, but when this came across, our social media or whatever, we were like, we have to do this one because it's so relevant. So maybe we'll have you back after we read Mallory in full color, if you'll come back.
And it's a pretty bannable book. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like
Uh,
we don't need to worry about it because this would totally be banned and this would not be
Right.
in our libraries for sure.
yeah. Well, and
It's
So,
actually,
hard.
well, I was supposed to speak at a library about Tethered before Mallory even came out, and
mhm.
somebody read the description for this book and ended up canceling the event.
Just because
So
of Mallory, even though it was about Tethered?
it wasn't even out yet.
Oh my.
Mallory was not even out yet, but they read that it was about a drag queen story time, and the whole event was canceled with
Well, there you
I
go.
mean, no, it was a scheduling was
Right.
they gave, but I know enough people that I
Mhm.
heard through the grapevine about the real reasons for
That
that.
happened
So
to a
not just two people,
Palestinian
there were
author.
two other authors who also,
Mhm.
the event was canceled.
That happened to a
Sorry, what?
Palestinian author. Do you remember that,
Yeah.
Jennifer?
I
I
do
forgot.
remember.
I
Yeah.
forgot what the name of the book was, but she had she was supposed to go to a school and talk about her book. It was like, it was a
Oh,
year or
was it
two ago.
Hannah's book?
I'm not
Sorry, go
sure.
ahead.
It
I
was
think I
uh, half of the show is me and Jennifer like trying to help each other remember things. Um, but it was in like New England, I think. But either way, like they were like, oh yeah, we can't have you. There's a scheduling conflict, even though like everything had been confirmed. It was the day before, like she was
Yeah.
already in town. It was like just someone got pissed off because they were talking about Palestinian rights, and so yeah,
And I
those
feel
count
like
as
this,
banned to
Hannah
us.
Mushbeck, I think.
Say again?
Hannah Mushabek, maybe. I know that
Maybe.
has happened to her, but
yeah.
I feel like that's probably a common occurrence, especially
Yeah.
for Palestinian authors, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like this is what's happening now. It's like you don't hear about books getting banned because they just don't get picked up.
Yep.
Libraries aren't
Yes.
putting it in their libraries and they're just avoiding it. So it's
Quiet
worse than
censorship.
bans because it's very quiet censorship. Yeah.
And
And
Hmm.
that's really scary.
that happens at every level. I mean, all the way back to like what authors choose to write about. And it
Yes.
hurts everyone. It doesn't just hurt the banned authors. I
Right.
mean, my third book is actually another character that's part of this same group, but it's my first main character who's a straight white boy. And that book went nowhere. That no one, I mean, there was some interest, but it just did not get picked up. And that's because
Mm.
right now children's, and I think it's probably the best book I've written, honestly. I
Really?
absolutely love it.
What's that
Yes,
one called?
it's not, I mean, it doesn't really
Oh, it
matter
just
because
it didn't get picked up.
it's
I
not
see.
going anywhere. Maybe
Yeah.
someday it will matter.
Self-publish
Yeah.
it. No.
I would love it if someday I could talk about it more, but it
Mhm.
deals with homelessness. It's a very,
Oh,
in my neighborhood of Columbus in
great.
particular is a major thing.
Yeah.
But that book, the culture of book banning is damaging to everyone, but especially children's books. And no one wants to take a risk right now. And any book that's not a for sure, best-selling author, like the K.D. Camillos are always going to get published, right?
Right.
Catherine
Hmm.
Applegate, and both of them are wonderful, delightful humans.
Hmm.
And I'm so glad their books are continuing to get published. But also, like
But
almost everyone else it's just struggles,
Right.
nothing but struggles right now, and it's because of this culture of book banning, because kids aren't out there buying their own books. It's coming from the parents and the
right.
gatekeepers, and when the
Exactly.
parents and gatekeepers are not buying them. And a lot of that is teachers and librarians.
Yep.
When teachers and librarians aren't buying them because they know that they just do not have the resources to deal with any kind of pushback from parents, then publishers aren't going to publish them. So it just keeps on moving back. And everyone I know in children's publishing is struggling right now.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, I don't see a solution. Like, what? Because it's like, on the one hand, there's more of these diverse books than there ever have been. But then on the other hand, it's like, well, how are the kids that really need to read them going to get them?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, the solution is honestly people paying attention and being involved, because it's a very few, the ones who are like pushing this out, the ones that are pushing my books off shelves. It's a very small number, right? It's a very few few members of our society who are being incredibly loud about it.
The loud minority.
What we need is more MILFia. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Need more. we need more moms into literary freedom out there.
Yep.
We need moms and dads and parents of all sorts to stand up for their kids and what their kids are able to read.
Yes.
I
agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Social media helps too. I'm sure, kids have social media, and there's a whole book talk out there. And so, try to have some optimism there. Help me sleep at night. But we're not going to give up.
No, we can't. We got to keep fighting.
Yep,
That's right. That's right.
Well, I think that's a great note to end it on. Again, Elisa Stone Leahy, go buy her books, Tethered to Other Stars and Mallory in Full Color. Is that it? Or Mallory in Full Color. Yep. And thanks for listening. Remember, don't ban books.
Ban bigots.
Thank you so much.
This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer and Courtney.
You can listen to the MILF for Books podcast on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, or literally any podcast app you want.
Check out our MILF for Books YouTube page. That's MILF, 4, Books. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Follow the show on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and Blue Sky at MILF for Books. Again, that's MILF, 4, Books. But follow us on TikTok at Moms into Literary Freedom.